Hello, welcome to Tokusatsu Thursdays, which is a show where I review Tokusatsu movies and TV shows, right? And sometimes I do reactions. And today I'm reviewing the Kamen Rider Kuuga, which came out in the year 2000. It had 49 episodes, right? It was directed by Hinori Ishida, starring Joe Odagiri, Shingo Katsurayama, and Kazumi Narata, right? And when the show started up, it had a little like tribute for Shotaro Ishinomori, which was the creator of Kamen Rider. And I didn't notice at the time, but he also created the first. I knew he created Kick Kider, but he also created the first two seasons of Super Sentai, or the first two Super Sentai shows, right? This Kamen Rider show apparently had, like, the creators wanted an Indiana Jones feel to it, so like. The show starts off with a bunch of archaeologists in Japan find this ancient tomb where there's a sarcophagus. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they open it up and they find this this warrior with a belt. And at the same time that they open it up, they accidentally released a ancient bioweapon who is called throughout the series Unidentified Lifeform Zero, who after killing the archaeologists went and resurrected his fellow Grongi, which are ancient bioweapons that used to terrorize humans back in Japan, back when they were called the Linto, right? Thousands and thousands of years ago. They never say exactly how long ago, but it's implied, like, you know, long time ago, right? And at the same time that this is going on, Yusuke Godai returns to Japan, and he's kind of like this. I wouldn't call him like a layabout, but he's like this weird drifter character, who when he's not working at his foster father's cafe, Oriental Cafe, which serves curry, right? He goes on adventures around the world, climbing mountains, stuff like that, right? He goes home, and his best friend Sakurako, who's works at the archaeological department at Jonan University, tells him, hey, there's something weird going on at this dig, right? Can you go check it out? He goes there, finds the police, the police there, and that's where he first meets the detective character who's the main partner of Kamen Rider Kuuga, which is Yusuke Gudo. I meant like Yusuke Godai, which his name is Ichijo, right? Who at first hates Yusuke because he thinks he's like a goofy hippie, right? But throughout the series, you know, they become friends, right? What ends up happening is he finds a belt, takes it to Sakurako, right? And they while they're at the police station, like an unidentified life form shows up, which is a spider, and goes around killing police officers, right? And it's an homage to the first episode of Kamen Rider, the original, where the first monster Kamen Rider fights is a Spider-Man because Kamen Rider was inspired by Spider-Man back when Kamen Rider was, you know, originally a manga, right? Yusuke Godai takes the the belt that Ichigo found at the tomb, puts it on, and it fuses with him, and that's when he first turns into Kamen Rider Kuga, which his first form is a weakened form that's white, and he later on in the series he developed a few episodes later he develops the main form, which is the red form, and that red form is like general purpose type, power type, and then throughout the series he unlocks new forms like water, which is the blue form, which allows him to have like a staff weapon, and he's super fast, but he has weaker punches. He has the green form that allows him to shoot, like have like a crossbow weapon, and allows him to track. His senses are heightened, and allows him to track things. He also has the armored form, which is purple, and he has like a broadsword, right? And later on in the series, he develops like new powers, new abilities, right? And till the last episode where he has a black form, right? A black and gold form. So the series is basically Kamen Rider Kuga teaming up with the police to deal with the unidentified life form, which is ancient bioweapons that look for some reason like in their human forms, goth kids, J-rockers. Right, there's the main leader, who's called B1, who's this beautiful woman with a white rose, who kind of organizes the unidentified life forms, and they play this game, right, where they go around, each of them takes turns and go around mass murdering people, and the Kamen Rider Kuga has to team up with the police to take them down. Where's the army and the self-defense force while this is going on? Who knows? Like, the show is basically a combination of Garo, which has the horror theme because, you know, the character, the monsters going around mass murdering people, and then you have the Neon Genesis Evangelion feel where, like, it's not just it's not just the hero taking down the monsters. He has to cooperate with the police, right? And come up with like new weapons and new, like, you know, strategies to take them down. Right? And the special effects for the first series were pretty bad. Like, whenever they had to damage cars or like vehicles, they would use special effects to make it look damaged, right? They'll digitally composite, like, you know, damage onto shit. They would use a lot of green screens. The transformation is basically CGI, and it looks pretty bad. But I watched, you know, some of the more recent Kamen Rider TV shows like 01, and I even started watching Revice. Right, I watched like the first 4 episodes of Revice, and the CGI here looks pretty. The CGI in this show from 2000 is pretty much at the close or to the same level as the Kamen Rider TV shows nowadays. Actually, this looks a lot better because they actually use real life explosions and practical effects at times, right? And there's even later on in the series, the battles get pretty gory, and there's even blood, right? But like, just like with other like superhero like tokusatsu shows, which were basically for kids, there are really mundane life lessons throughout the show, right? Like, you have this like one character who is like this depressed young person, wants to be a artist, who gets sick and sympathizes with the unidentified life forms until he gets almost killed by one, and then like the cop and the autopsy guy have to like slap sense into him, right? You have a thing where like one character wants to be an actress. You have the scientist lady doesn't spend enough time with. She's like a single mom, and basically she's working all the time, so her mom basically takes care of her kid, right? You have the foreign guy Jean, who looks half Japanese to me, but apparently he's supposed to be like English because he randomly speaks English throughout the show. Who's like a friend of Sakurakuro at Jonin University, has a thing for like Enokita, which is like the female scientist, and tries to get her to spend more time with her son, right? The monster designs in the show is basically they just make they look like ancient, like kind of warriors with like rubber suits, and they're like a combination of like animals or like even mushrooms. And sometimes like some of the monsters are like you have like unidentified life form 3, who's like a bat monster, who's like a vampire monster, who becomes the Starscream of this series because he failed in the early on in the show. He becomes this lackey for everybody, and everybody treats him like, all the bad guys treat him like shit until he accidentally steals the power of their main boss, which is unidentified life form 1, and tries to become the top unidentified life form, right? Which yeah, the premise for the show is basically the unidentified life forms are going around killing people as part of this game, and it's implied that if they win, they get new powers and new abilities, and they're doing this also they can one day challenge unidentified life form 0, who is basically like their Kuga, right? He basically looks like a white Kuga, right? And the designs in the show, the designs for the monsters are almost at the level of Keita Amiya. They're very like Garo-esque, if you ever watched that show. Like I almost want to look up to see if he did do designs, but some of the designs for the monsters are pretty bad. Like the buffalo monster looked really bad. The shark, you couldn't even tell was supposed to be a shark monster. And then there was this gay crossdresser character who would kill people by kissing them. And he was like this wooden, he would turn into this wooden monster thing, but he had this weird helmet and it looked almost like a tip of a penis. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And he turns out to be a mushroom monster. Yeah. So yeah, so like after like, you know, after like all the monsters are defeated, like, you have the final showdown between Yusuke Godai, who's Kamen Rider Kuga, versus you know, unidentified life form 0, right? And it's basically I kind of had a problem with the final fight because they hyped it up for the last like 4 episodes. They hyped it up, and it was only a few minutes, and they were barely in their forms, and they don't show like unidentified life forms like monster form, henshin form, until like the final fight, and you barely see it. But they were kind of going for this more like, you know, artistic like flavor for the artistic like fight, because like during halfway through their fight they damage each other's belts, and then like they're in their human forms and they're beating the shit out of each other while it's snowing outside, because it takes place you know, in January, late January, right? And before that it was raining like crazy the last two episodes before that. So it's like, were they going for like were they going for like a 7 like kind of thing with all the rain, man? Yeah. So if I were to say what my likes for the show was, I thought the designs for both Kamen Rider Kuga and his different forms and the monsters look good. I liked all the side characters, which there are a lot of side characters in the show, and I liked that the show was episodic and you had like arcs, right? My dislikes with the show is that, you know, it got somewhat repetitive because, you know, you had like these 2-episode arcs. There was times where they would skip fights, right? And they would just show like the second half of fights. So which made me think, did I miss an episode? Right? Because I am watching this show for free on Tubi, right? So maybe they made a mistake, right? Apparently there was no mistakes. They skipped like the first half of fights so they can focus more on mundane like life lessons. Right? And then there was the thing where I kind of didn't like. There was some bad fight choreography throughout the show, but then they kind of made up for it with the more strategic fights or strategic like planning behind the scenes of the fights. Yeah. So kind of this show, I was kind of leaning between 6 at times 6.5 towards an 8 because I love the characters, even though Yusuke himself is kind of goofy. But like, you know, the designs were great. You had some really interesting, like, you know, cinematography, right? With cinematography, right? Especially with the final fight. And I just loved the characters. Though it was kind of, and the show was edgy as fuck at times, man. And especially since like this show came out in 2000, and the villains of this show are basically like edgy, like young people that are like pissed off at the world, want to go mass murder, but they're actually supposed to be like ancient warriors playing a game, but their human forms are like edgy teenagers. And like the last bad guy, his human form is like a teenager who wears all white. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, there are a lot of Columbine feels to this fucking. I don't know if that was intentional, but it was like, holy fuck. So if I were to give this show a rating, I'm gonna meet halfway and give it a 7.5. Compared to a lot of super, like, you know, tokusatsu shows today, this show is great, and I totally recommend it. And this show is getting a Blu-ray release in September, right, by Shout Factory, and I think even Mill Street. So if you're interested in the show, I recommend watching on Tubi first, and then buying the show when it hits on Blu-ray, so we can get more Kamen Rider releases in the West. Because, you know, for the longest time we had no Kamen Rider stuff. We're only recently now getting the later Ultraman series. It used to be we only had like Super Sentai and some Ultraman stuff. Now we're starting to get more Ultraman stuff, and we're starting to get the Kamen Rider stuff as well. So I totally recommend this series, and I hope you guys enjoyed this review. And please check out the show. It's on Tubi for free, right? And we're also having a poll for our next Tokusatsu series review, so make sure to vote for that. But in the meantime, I'm going to take a little break from watching series, and we're just going to be reviewing movies in the meantime, like, because I promised game review, right, for Digimon Survive, so I want to focus on that for the channel. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.